Most high performers think that they need more inputs to make better decisions. More podcasts, more books, more opinions from friends and family. I used to be the same way, constantly looking outwards, constantly consuming, constantly asking others what they thought, even for the smallest decisions. In a lot of ways, that's still an ongoing journey. But this past week, I spent 12 hours walking in complete silence. No phone, no music, no speaking, no input whatsoever. And honestly, what I discovered wasn't some massive enlightenment. It was something way more valuable. The confidence to trust my own thoughts. I'm Jesse, and if you're someone that struggles to make decisions without external validation, or you find yourself constantly reaching for your phone for stimulation, I'm hoping that this resonates with you above anything else that you see today. Here's what my life looked like before this challenge. I'd sometimes wake up and pick up my phone and see what messages I need to catch up on for the day. I'd sit down for breakfast and listen to my podcasts or watch a YouTube video. I'd always be listening to an audiobook in the car, and anytime I had decisions that I needed to make, I'd have a tendency to hit up a friend, call some family, prompt ChatGPT, or scroll through Instagram to see what everyone else was doing. I justify that as me being thorough and thinking that I was optimizing, but really I was avoiding something much simpler, which was sitting alone with my own thoughts and trusting what came up. And here's the thing about high performers is we're really good at justifying all of this. We call it research and gathering perspectives, but what we're actually doing is trying to outsource our decision making because we don't trust ourselves to know what we want. So I decided to test something. What would happen if I gave myself the permission to completely disconnect for 12 hours? And honestly, going into this, it wasn't too daunting to me. I wasn't quite nervous, I was more so excited. What surprised me most from it was that I didn't have this massive spiritual awakening or enlightenment. I didn't solve all my life's problems. But what happened was much simpler and honestly more powerful because I just felt calm. Calm with myself, calm with my thoughts. There were some funny realizations and random thoughts that came up, but otherwise mostly just a steady confidence that I could exist for an entire day without needing anything external. And that's when I really had the realization of this isn't about the silence itself, it's about giving myself the permission to be with my own thoughts without immediately reaching for my phone or any sort of validation or distraction to reaffirm something that I was doing. Think about this. When was the last time that you sat with a decision without asking someone else what they thought? Or when did you last an hour without checking your phone or consuming some sort of content, music, podcast, whatever? For most people, that feels impossible. And not because they're bored, but because they're terrified of what actually might come up just sitting with their own thoughts when they can't distract themselves. So coming out of this walk for me, something that I am doubling down on is I don't check my phone in the morning until I've completed my first deep work block of the day. I'm making way faster decisions because I trust myself. And especially as I'm working with clients, I can immediately spot the ones who are addicted to external input versus being able to develop genuine self-trust. And so speaking of self-trust and confidence, this fits perfectly into what I call the performance freedom engine or performance freedom loop, which I actually made my last YouTube video about. Solitude accelerates this process because it forces you to develop the most important skill, which is trusting yourself, which is the foundation for confidence. So one thing is I did start at 2 a.m. So I spent the early portion walking in the middle of the night, basically, making sure that I had my head on a swivel and got to where I wanted to go. So that pulled my attention. I also developed some pretty bad blisters, which took my mind out of it. However, the endurance of pushing through something like that, even though it wasn't running a marathon, it's just walking, there were some differences there that being able to push through and say, I'm going to do this, that kind of helped me engage and get into a bit of a flow by having that sort of a challenge right in front of me. So with all of this being said, there are some things that I would probably change when I do this again. First, no destination in mind. Having an endpoint kind of kept pulling me out of the present moment and thinking about wanting to get there, which I thought was a great challenge for myself and to be able to say that I did it, but it didn't allow me to actually reflect within my own mind as presently as I would have liked. Secondly, I would have used my journal a lot more. Now, because I was constantly walking, trying to get to that destination, I didn't quite force myself to sit down and go deep into certain thoughts rather than just existing in silence. And I think that would have been way more valuable as well. But here's the practical application for you if you're listening to this and You think 12 hours sounds so daunting. You don't need 12 hours. Just start with blocks throughout your day or your week where you can completely disconnect. No music, no phone, no input, just you and your thoughts. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. Oh, well, I just don't have time for this. Well, that's exactly the problem. You're so inundated with stimulus that you're doing yourself the disservice by not spending time with your own thoughts. So remember, this is about building self-confidence at the deepest level. When you can sit alone with your thoughts without the external stimulation, you have the chance to develop an unshakable foundation that no amount of productivity hacks are going to give you. So if you're trying to scale your business and you're looking for the right software and the right this and programs and this and that, none of that matters if you don't start internally. So I would love to know, would you consider doing something like this, even if it's just 2 hours? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to understand what your current relationship is with solitude. And if you are curious to understand more on how this connects with the bigger picture of sustainable high performance, go and watch this next video where I break down that performance freedom engine that I mentioned. It's the framework that will tie a lot of this together.